Sairam. The concluding sutra in the Patanjali Yoga Sutra, the last sutra in the Samadhi Pada. It goes like this. puruṣārthaśūnyānāṃ guṇānāṃ pratiprasavaḥ kaivalyaṃ svarūpapratiṣṭhā va citiśaktiriti. The state of the self in before or after liberation is realized when the guṇas, having provided for the experience and liberation of the puruṣa, are without any objective to fulfill, and therefore they disappear into their causal substance. In other words, it is absolute consciousness established in its own self. citiśaktiriti. It is the final verse, not in the Samadhi Pada, in the Kaivalya Pada of the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. Let us split up the sutra and get into the meaningful translation. puruṣārthaśūnyānāṃ, devoid of purpose for the puruṣa. The guṇas, having fulfilled their purpose of providing experience and liberation for puruṣa, the pure true self. guṇānāṃ, of the guṇas, the three qualities of nature, sattva, rajas, tamas, which create the material and mental world. pratiprasavaḥ, reabsorption or returning to the origin. The guṇas involute or merge back into their original unmanifested source, Prakriti. Kaivalyaṃ, we know by now what is kaivalyaṃ, aloneness of self. This is the highest aim of yoga, a state of perfect independence and ultimate freedom. Svarūpapratiṣṭhā, or established in its own true nature. This provides an alternative perspective on kaivalya. When the influence of the guṇas ceases, the puruṣa is no longer obscured and rests in its own essential nature. citiśaktiriti, the power of consciousness. Thus, the re-establishment of consciousness in its pure state is the power of the Atman or true self. As the verse talks about guṇas having lost the purpose of the possibility of affecting the state of the puruṣa, they involute and retrace and turn back and merge in the Prakriti. To know some more about the three guṇas, the sage from the Ananda Kutir, Shivanandaji Maharaj, writes, if sattva predominates in the mind, thoughts of God, Brahma Vichara, will manifest. This mind will be one-pointed. The meditative mood will come by itself without exertion. In spiritual sadhana, the sattvic state of mind will not last for a long time, up to realization level. Rajas and tamas will try to rush in. You have to be very vigilant. You will have to watch the mind through thoughtful introspection. A sattvic man will be ever God-living, dispassionate and powerful. A rajasic man will be ever engaged in worldly activities. He wants to lord over the people. He has domineering attitude, that is dominating attitude. He wants powers. He is much attached to wife, children and property. Just as you squeeze out the toothpaste from the collapsible tube, you will have to squeeze out all rajas from the bodily tube and fill it with sattva. Then you will become a dhyana yogi, writes Shivanandaji. The doors or impurities of the mind, rajas and tamas, should be removed by heating the mind with the fire of vairagya and abhyasa. Sorry. By increasing the sattvic modifications of the mind as kshama, love, mercy, magnanimity, generosity, truthfulness, celibacy, you can destroy the rajasic and tamasic mental vrittis. Although the mind is one, it passes into many conditions or states, as it is made up of 3 qualities or guṇas. All these qualities enter into a variety of combination. The modifications or vrittis of the mind are also various. Peace of mind is a sattvic vritti. Lust is a rajasic vritti. Laziness is a tamasic vritti. Now, for this verse on transcending the gunas. When the gunas involve, that is, not involving involution. When the 3 gunas recede completely, liberation is realized, wherein the power of pure consciousness, puruṣa, becomes established in its true nature. The yogi is liberated from the flow of causality, time and experiences. The sense of I, with its limited perspective, no longer colors existence. So there are no longer any personal agendas, opinions or drama. The yogi continues to exist with heart and mind fully open, abiding in the bottomless wisdom of ever-present consciousness, until the body of the yogi reaches its death. That transcendental aloneness is withdrawal of the 3 gunas, whose essence is cause and effect. Now that experience and release, the purpose of puruṣa, are achieved and done with. In kaivalyaṃ, prakriti is permanently gone. Only puruṣa exists turned in on itself. As stated at the beginning of chapter 1, when mental activity is restrained, the soul's faculty that witnesses thoughts naturally turns in on itself. However, this is temporary and only lasts until thoughts again arise. Whereas in kaivalyaṃ, the power of awareness is permanently established in itself. Established in its own nature, that is svarūpa. A Jivan Mukta is no longer bound up with mind, sattva, and alone isolated. Its permanence in that state alone is transcendental aloneness. Such an enlightened yogi is purely spontaneous, with no actions whatsoever being motivated by the inner drives of samskaras and karma. 100% of actions are from the here and now response to the needs of the moment in relation to the service of other beings. This is easy for such a yogi as there is no I and there is no other. It is all a constant flow of pure, undivided consciousness that only seems to play here and there and everywhere. Swami Rama writes on the verse, in Sankhya and Yoga philosophy, it is the material and mental creation with which pure spirit has falsely identified itself on account of ego, the I maker, ahamkara. The goal of yoga is the isolation, kaivalyaṃ, of puruṣa from prakriti, the identification of pure spirit with itself. Prakriti is said to have three attributes, guṇas or tendencies: balance of purity, sattva, energy, rajas, inertia, tamas. Everything in the material universe is said to be some combination of these three tendencies. If we all go back to the creation of the universe session, in the Sankhya of Kapila, the differentiation between puruṣa and prakriti has been made. In the state of kaivalya, this differentiation is taken back. Prakriti merges with puruṣa, and the puruṣa exists as puruṣottama of Bhagavad Gita. Again, back to the sage from Ananda Kutir. Kaivalya comes when the gunas, devoid of motive, become latent, or the power of consciousness gets established in its own nature. The gunas act for the enjoyment of the puruṣa. As soon as the puruṣa realizes his own native state of isolation, the gunas, having fulfilled the object, cease to exist, cease to act. Their effects, the various modifications of the gunas, get laya or involution. They merge into their cause. Nothing remains for the puruṣa to cognize. This does not mean that the universe has come to an end. The world continues to exist as usual for those who have not attained kaivalya. The indriyas are drawn into the mind. This is retracing as per the tree creation of the universe, Kapila's Sankhya. The indriyas involute and they are drawn into the mind. The mind involutes and it's drawn into Mahat, and the Mahat into the Prakriti, and the Prakriti into the Puruṣa. Perfection is attained when the intellect becomes as pure as Atman itself. Go back to the session Mind is Equal to Consciousness, 2014, where Acharya taught about the same, how the mind or the intellect is consciousness itself. When the soul realizes that it is absolutely independent and it does not depend on anything else in this world, this highest knowledge, kaivalya, isolation or perfect independence comes in. The soul feels that it is ever free, unchanging, immortal, beginningless, endless, infinite, beyond time, space and causation, full of bliss, peace and knowledge. When the intellect or sattva is rendered as pure as the puruṣa, when it loses all consciousness of action on its own part, then its purity is said to be equal to that of the puruṣa. The intellect or sattva is annihilated. Puruṣa only remains free in his native, pristine and divine glory. Sattva means here intellect. Puruṣa is reflected in intellect. Sattva is the cause for knowledge and ahankara. The intellect attains the same state as that of the puruṣa when it becomes absolutely pure, and when it remains motionless, and when all its functions and activities stop completely. The worthy disciple, not less than realized master in himself, Swami Krishnanandaji's exposition or some words of wisdom on this sutra. He writes, this is the last sutra of Patanjali. He gives a double definition of moksha or salvation. It is, on the one side, a return of the gunas of Prakriti to their original source and the dissolution of the forms which were constituted by the concrescence of the gunas due to the preponderance of certain of their forms, either sattva or rajas or tamas. When the purpose of the three gunas is fulfilled through the experience that the puruṣa has been provided with, there is no further work to be done for the gunas, and the workmen retire to their home as it were. They go back because the work has been completed, and there is a cessation of the forms which once controlled the mind, affected the mind, and put it under bondage. So, in one sense, the return of the gunas to their sources, or a setting up of an equilibrium of the cosmos, can be said to be liberation. How it is, the liberation is explained in the second way. Swamiji writes, on the other side, svarūpapratiṣṭhā citiśaktiriti, the establishment of consciousness in its own nature is salvation. This is a positive definition. The consciousness should rest in itself. This is called freedom. And when the consciousness moves towards an object, that is called bondage. Hence, here is a very subtle definition of bondage and liberation. Whenever the mind moves towards an object, it is caught by the appearance of the object, and it transforms itself into the form of the object as if it has no status of its own. However, when consciousness rests in itself, what happens? There is an immediate experience of the rain, as it were, as the sutra puts it, dharma megha, of all power, all knowledge, and all perfection showering from every direction. The perfection, the power, and the knowledge that the individual has lost are brought back on account of the return of consciousness to its own self. The weakness of the individual is due to the movement of consciousness towards objects, and the strength depends upon the reverse process. The more is the intensity with which consciousness returns from the objects to itself, the greater is the strength of the individual. And so, the highest strength, the greatest knowledge, and the deepest bliss or happiness are experienced when all the ramifications of consciousness or rays of consciousness are brought back to itself, and there is a resting of the infinite in itself. Dear sadhakas, please note, one explanation has been given in the neti or the negative way when it is said that the gunas lose their propensity or the power, and they realize that they can no more affect the aloneness of the puruṣa, and therefore they merge into the mahat prakriti. Whereas in the second iti, positive description, as if there were never ever any gunas existed at all, because the positive iti explanation of the puruṣa is resting in its own svarūpa. Svarūpa citiśaktiriti. It is just resting in its own pure, pristine state of pure consciousness. The earlier neti is going through the 41 minutes of meditation and reaching the 41st minute. The second positive iti explanation of resting in its own consciousness is like starting in 41st minute and just existing in the 41st minute. Finished. Nothing before and nothing after that existence. As Chit Shakti. How beautiful that this had to be the last verse of the Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, where yoga and jnana embrace each other, hug each other, and then all merge into that supreme kaivalyaṃ sthiti of the puruṣa. Nothing after this. Swami Vivekananda summarizes the essence of this verse thus: nature's task is done. This unselfish task which our sweet nurse nature had imposed upon herself. She gently took the self-forgetting soul by the hand, as it were, and showed him all the experiences in the universe, all manifestations, bringing him higher and higher through various bodies, till he lost glory, came back. His lost glory came back. And he remembered his own nature, like that example of the lion brought up in along with the flock of sheep, forgetting his real nature as lion, and where he is being taken to the pond and then he is shown his face, and the lion was ever the lion. It was never a sheep at all. Exactly the same Sage Vivekananda is telling here. And he makes it a little dramatic by saying that the sweet nurse nature takes this jiva turned Jivan Mukta, this soul, at the penultimate moment, the nurse Shakti takes the jiva almost turning into the seer. She takes the self-forgetting soul by hand, holding the hand and showing him all the experience in the universe and bringing him in higher and higher and higher. Like the Jyoti meditation, we go higher and higher. Various body suits, space suits, that's what we say in the Jyoti meditation. Till the glory that he had forgotten, not lost actually, but he had forgotten, he comes face to face with that glory of his pristine, glorious self, Chit Shakti, pure consciousness. And he instantly discovers his true nature, Atman. Then the kind mother went back the same way she came, for others who have lost their way in the trackless desert of life. And thus is she working without beginning and without end. And thus through pleasure and pain, thus through good and evil, the infinite river of souls is flowing into the ocean of perfection of self-realization. How beautifully summarized. And the Shakti going again and again, holding hand and bringing everyone to remember his or her true nature. Exactly, that is what our beloved Swami has been doing. Let us be filled with gratitude, immense gratitude during the centenary celebration with his birthday fast approaching. How many thousands of hands he has held, and how many out of that, at least hundreds, he has taken from the Bhavasagar to Vrindavan. And then his duty does not end there. He rushes back, as Vivekananda writes, to hold one more hand and to bring that hand, that jiva, to remember his true divine nature. How beautiful and wonderful, how sweet is our Swami. Words fail to express what Swami has done for us. Bhakta Vatsala. Like he held as Krishna, he held the hands of Meera. He holds the hands of all true bhaktas, all true jnanis. And the route is very familiar to him. He has descended from the route paritranaya sadhūnāṃ, dharma samsthapanārthāya sambhavāmi yuge yuge. He is the one who has descended in its out of his true will, like he said to Ishwaramba, I did not come through prasavam, I came through pravesha, I entered your womb for the benefit of humanity. Such a familiar route. He takes one by one to the abode, prashanti, and then takes upon the task of getting one more to the abode. This Sai era has been truly touching, truly sentimental, truly emotional. Let the next 4 days be spent in the incessant contemplation of this beautiful verse, last verse of Yoga Sutra, and the talk on the verse, so that the entire absorption nididhyasana culminates on the 23rd morning. Hari Om Tat Sat. Jai Sai Ram.